Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Of course, as always, if you need a roof, you can give us a shout at 364-1007, 364-1007. Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com, and ProChargeEV, ProChargeEV.com. All of our sponsored deets are scrolling across the bottom. So, cheers, everybody. LSU baseball gets thumped. Not a giant surprise. Talked about that yesterday. You were facing Vandy's ace, and you were going whole staff with Javen Coleman and whatever followed. So you got run ruled. 13-3. You lose your fourth consecutive series to start conference play. Tigers currently 3-9 in conference play, and you're going to Tennessee. And part of the thing we had talked about here for a couple weeks was find a way to get to 5-10 or 6-9 in conference play at the halfway point. Well, that means you got to go on the road and win a series at Tennessee to get to 5-9 or sweep them to get to 6-10. And I'm not super confident that's going to happen. So Tennessee's pitching isn't maybe necessarily as dominant as it has been, but offensively they're really good. And your pitching has struggled. And last time you went on the road, you got swept. So not great. Not great, Bob. Not great. I guess I could put that there. Boom. So LSU drops the series to Vandy. But really what I wanted to, and congrats to LSU gymnastics, watched the gym meet yesterday at regionals. They won handily, so they advanced to the championship. So it's the national next weekend, or 2 weeks, excuse me. It's the national semifinals, and then they'll have the Final Four. So 2 days apart. So see if they can bring home their first ever national championship. Haley Bryant, 2 perfect 10s yesterday on vault and bars. She is, I put LSY, not LSY, gymnastics. LSU gymnastics advances. LSU. Yeah. Not LSY, LSU. I don't know what LSY is. So congrats to Haley Bryant is, and admittedly, I've watched this whole season. My family loves the gymnastics team program. They're so much fun. The meets are great. High energy, super athletic. It's a lot of fun. Haley Bryant is the greatest gymnast LSU's ever had. Period. Like you're watching the greatest ever when you watch her. So if you don't watch and if you haven't watched, you're going to watch the national championships in a couple of weeks. Just understand that who you are watching is the greatest gymnast that LSU's ever had. It's pretty awesome. Like to live in that era. Okay. We'll get into it. We'll say some good mornings. I did go to practice yesterday for football. We got to watch full 2 hours outside. It was also, the coaches clinic weekend. So there were a ton of high school coaches, tons of recruits and families as well there. So pretty packed scene out on the Ponderosa. And like most practices, there's a lot of just, individual work, meaning with by position. And so you don't see much, hitting dummies and running through drills and stuff, but they did have 2 full scrimmage team periods. And so that's probably the notes that you're going to be most interested in. So I'll run through that. Let me say some good mornings here as we get started, just so I don't get into all the football stuff and then people start joining and they keep asking the same question. So Dalton Barnett, good morning. Had football in the title, had to stop by. We're getting to that here in a second. Wendell Norman, Bailey C. Jay Johnson could bite through a 2x4 last night at the press conference. I don't blame him. Chef, morning, Matt. Where this team is so frustrating. Happy Sunday, Kelly Gross. Austin Kidder, good morning. Spent the weekend with my dad celebrating daughter's 3rd birthday. Hopefully you and all the Sconers did not depend on LSU baseball for happiness and have a great weekend too. Austin, I saw your dad on Thursday. I don't know if he told you. I mean, he probably did tell you, but saw him Thursday. I was speaking at the Kiwanis meeting that morning and came up and said hello and told me he was heading out to Vegas to see you. So great, man. That's awesome. Glad y'all had a good weekend. And hope you make it back this way soon, man. Patrick P, there's not enough Xanax in the world for me to listen to Musso after yesterday. I'm assuming that's not a knock on Musso and more of a knock on the game than the season going the way that it is. Game Q man, more Matt White would see Jake Brown as a pitcher. He can't be any worse than pitchers because he hasn't been throwing. That's why. You're not just going to hand him the ball and say, go get him against college hitters when he hasn't been pitching. So I'm not saying that won't happen next year, but it's not happening this year. Wendell, how is practice and media availability? Okay, that's what we're going to get into. Landon, good morning from Shin Tech. Very tough watching the ball team at the moment. Hopefully we can hit stride, get hot, going into next year on a high note. Jamie Leday, good morning. Brett DeGros saw yesterday coming for the baseball team. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about that yesterday. I mean, you were facing their ace who's been awesome. The only reason that they kind of ended up in that situation with Holton pitching day 3 is they kind of had like a rain out weather delay, and so it messed up their rotation, and so they didn't want to move Carter Holton up 2 days. So I think next week he'll probably be back on Friday. They'll get him back on his regular rotation. Let's see. Eric, according to Musso, LSU's never lost the first 4 series of a season. Yeah, I know he was looking Friday. He was looking that up, and he had gotten back to like going through a lot of the schedule. I know he had gotten back into like the 90s. So I don't know. Like you could go back. I don't know if he went further than that, but yeah, I mean and then if you actually consider that they lost the last 2 series of last year, they lost 6 consecutive SEC series now because they lost to Auburn and State to close the year last year, and then they've lost the first 4 SEC series this year. So they've actually lost 6 consecutive SEC series. Bob Poole, good morning. Brett Gidger, seems like a lot going on at practice. What's your approach to seeing as much as you can? Okay, let's get into that. Murder Giraffe, Joey Metke, good morning. So whenever we did have access to LSU football practice, full access to the whole practice. It was outside. If you've never been out to LSU there on the Ponderosa, they have 4 100-yard football fields, 4 full-length football fields. And so to the point that who was it? Sorry, I'm looking again. It was Brett. That Brett asked. Yeah, it can be challenging because a lot of times they split up on fields as well, and they only allow us on one field. So imagine, I can diagram it for you so you can kind of see how it plays. So like imagine there's 4 fields. So it's like this. So imagine this is Skip Urban Drive, right? So you come on Skip Urban Drive. This is where you see the sign that says McClendon Practice Facility. So we park here and go in here, right? And they only let us. I think. Can y'all see this? Sorry. So this is Skip Urban Drive, right? This is where the sign is. It's McClendon Practice Facility. So we park here, and we can only, when we go in the gate here, we can only be here on this sideline. So like one part of practice when they went to scrimmage, they scrimmaged here on this field. And so you had like the offense on this side and the defense here. So we're standing here looking across a field and then the defense on this side. So it was like impossible to see for that part of practice. And then sometimes it's like whenever they started, the offense, like quarterbacks were up here and the defenses were here. So I immediately went here to go see a lot of the offense and then later caught the defense, right? And then and like the specialists were over here. So anyway, just kind of I hope that helps, just kind of as a visual for how challenging it can be to see as much as you can. I try to make sure, like I kind of look at the drills they're doing to say, okay, what am I interested in seeing? So like whenever when the defense is just backpedaling and turning their hips and stuff, well, I'm not seeing anything. The only thing you can really see with the defensive backs there is like the order they're going in. So if quarterbacks and receivers during that period are are throwing with each other, then I want to go see that. I want to see the order. I want to see accuracy, timing, all that sort of stuff. So, um, the first thing we saw actually when we walked in is they were going full speed field goal unit, like with a full defense against the field goal unit. That was the first thing we saw, and then they went into individual. Um, and so I went and watched the quarterbacks throw. Then they did a tempo period where the offense was running against air, and so that kind of gives you a sense of who's running where. So the first receivers with that group were Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, and Aaron Anderson. Chris Hilton caught a beautiful touchdown pass. He high pointed a ball in the back corner of the end zone. There was no defense, but it was still beautiful. I mean, you only have two running backs with Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson. So they're trying to limit a lot of their workload as best they can, with some of the walk-ons. But those are the only two scholarship backs that they have right now. When we saw in that tempo period when the second team offense went, both 11 and 4 had drops. It's both the new guys. That's Xavier Thomas and CJ Daniels. But Daniels, so hold on. Xavier Thomas is going to catch a lot of balls this year, y'all, because they're going to use him a ton in the screen game. It's very obvious. And CJ Daniels is an impressive looking human. They got him listed at 6'2", 200. I'm telling y'all, he looks bigger than that. I mean, he is it maybe just the way the 4 looks on his jersey. I don't know. But CJ Daniels is an impressive looking guy. And they're making those dudes earn reps, obviously. Let's see. Then they went to individual, or that's the last we could shoot. Sage Ryan was injured during that period, went into the injury tent. I was standing right there. They were working on his ankle, but he did come back, so nothing serious. Kevin Peoples, the defensive end coach, is kind of working on, ripping through a defender and stripping the football. What I found interesting during that period on the defensive side, and then I'll go into the next. Then they went into a team period, so I'll go into, and I charted every play. There were 17 plays. I didn't chart the last one. I charted them, so I'll tell you how that went here in a second. But what was interesting is when they were going team defense before they went. This is okay. This is how the first defense lined up. Okay. This was your first string defense. Your tackles were Jacoby and Guillory, no surprise, and Kimo Makaneoli, the converted offensive lineman. Kimo was running first team defensive tackle. Your ends were Savion Jones and Braden Swinson. Linebackers are Greg Penn, Harold Perkins, your off-ball linebackers. Your star was Major Burns. Your first team cornerbacks were Ashton Stamps and PJ Woodland, the true freshman PJ Woodland. No, they did rotate. I'll get to that in a second when they went to the team period. And then while Sage Ryan was out, your two safeties were Jordan Gilbert and Jordan Allen. When Ryan came back, he replaced Jordan Allen. So Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan are going to be your starting safeties right now. Okay. If this is boring, tell me, but I'll run through. So I charted the plays during the team period. So this is it was thud, but it was full team offense, defense. They didn't tackle to the ground. They just did thud. And I'll tell you my big takeaways. The Kyron Lacey is really, really, really ready for a massive breakout. Like, this isn't just coach speak or anything like that. Like, he took over the practice yesterday. Like, now you could say maybe that's a problem because your defense still stinks, and maybe there's some of that. But he's a problem. And it was even like contested balls and double coverage and low throws. He caught everything and made big plays and catch and run. Like, he's ready. The other major observation is, and part of this is what we just talked about, your first offensive line absolutely dominated the defensive line, especially on the interior, like running between the tackles. But the really interesting thing was when they went to the 2s and the 3s, the defensive line got the better of the offensive line. Now, we'll run through some of that personnel here in a second, but that was maybe encouraging for the future because I think they got really good young talent on the offensive line, but the second and third defensive lines fared better against the offensive line. Okay, so here you go. First, this was the first team. The first team offense ran 5 plays. The second team offense ran 5 plays. The 1s went back in for 5 more plays, and the 2s went back in for 2 plays. And I'll tell you why in a second. So the first play, they roll right. Nuss rolls right and hits Kyron Lacey on the sideline for about a 15-yard reception. He turns it up and runs. Now, there's no tackling, but he might have been able to turn it up and run for a touchdown. On second down, they ran a screen to 11, which is Avion Thomas. Third down, or the third play, they ran a middle screen to Caleb Jackson, which was incomplete. It was actually Harold Perkins covering him. He broke it up. So it was a nice play over the middle by Harold Perkins to break up the middle screen. On the fourth play, Josh Williams ran the ball up the middle and went untouched. And I get it was a thud and they weren't tackling, but he went untouched. Right up on his own play, right up the middle. It was and then on the fifth play, they ran it with Caleb Jackson, and he went about 8 yards before he got touched. I'm telling you, the offensive line, especially on the interior, just really dominated that front seven running the football. So the 2s go in, and A.J. Swan went with the 2s first. Then on the second time the 2s came in, Ricky Collins came. Then when they went in scrimmage later, they flipped that. But I'll get to that in a bit. So again, this is the 2s. By the way, so your second offensive line, and if you're just joining us, doing an LSU practice report from yesterday, please smash the like button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe up to the channel. So your second offensive line, here you go, from left to right, was Tyree Adams. We do have to talk about this because Tyree Adams is struggling. And if I even made a note, like if something, God forbid, were to happen to Will Campbell, Emory Jones has to go play left tackle. You cannot let Tyree Adams play left tackle. Not yet, anyway. Okay, anyway. So Tyree Adams, left to right. Tyree Adams, Paul Mabenga, 78. Cohen Eccles, the freshman, is your second team center. True freshman early enrollee is your second team center. Who was the right guard? 76. Christian Stamps, I think, it's a freshman from Metairie. And then Bordelon, Bo Bordelon was your right tackle. So that's your second team offensive line. You had A.J. Swan at quarterback. So again, remember when the 2s went in there, your defense kind of had the upper hand. They ran the ball on the first play for a short gain. They fumbled a shotgun snap on the second play, another short run on the third play. They ran a draw on the fourth play, and then another short run. They only had one pass play called, and they fumbled the shotgun snap. So the second offense really struggled against the second defense. So the 1s go back in there, and it was more of the same. So you ran a draw with Caleb Jackson for about 5 yards. You ran you were looking deep, and ultimately Nuss checked down to Caleb Jackson on the right side. Really smart play by Nuss. They ran the ball with Josh Williams for a nice gain. The fourth play was a rollout to the right, and he hit Mason Taylor on the sideline for about 20 yards. It was another catch and run where if they were full contact, he might have turned it up, but since they were thud, we don't know. But it was about 20 yards downfield. Beautiful ball. And then the last play, they hit Kyron Lacey down the right sideline for a huge gain. They just couldn't guard Kyron Lacey. And then the 2s came back in on the first play. This is with Ricky Collins in there. On the first play, there was like a big shoving match, like a fight. I mean, not a fight, but you know what I mean. Like pushing, shoving, cursing at each other and all that sort of stuff. And so then they cut that period short. So they did the drill. So then they went back to individuals, and then they came back and did another scrimmage. I'll run through the scrimmage again in a second. But they in individuals, in the individual drills, I couldn't see the receivers because, like I talked about before, the receivers and the quarterbacks went on the far field, and we couldn't see them. So I couldn't see the one-on-one matchups with the receivers against the corners. So, but where we were, I could watch the one-on-one matchups with the offensive line against the defensive line, and by and large, the starting offensive line dominated. Like I think I saw. I think Swinson had one win against Emory Jones, but that was about it. The thing that was kind of unfair was like, so Paris Shand is running with the twos, right? So Paris Shand went against 65, who's Paul Mabenga, and he absolutely just brutalized that kid. Like Paris Shand is a starting caliber player, right? I mean, he's a 6'5", 275-pound senior who's played a ton of football, and he's going against Paul Mabenga, who is, a redshirt freshman, and Shand just, it was ugly. Let's see, 19 beats 71. 19 is 19 is Gabe Relaford. 19, Gabe Relaford had a really nice win over Tyree Adams. But again, that goes to the point. When a true freshman early enrollee is beating your backup left tackle, that's kind of a problem, right? 96 is Demyron Johnson. So Christian Stamps beat Demyron Johnson. Bo Bordelon had a really nice rep against Ahmad Bro. Bordelon also beat Jackson Howard. Bordelon's playing well, y'all. Like he's turned himself into a good college football player. I tell you who was a really interesting. The guy defensively, the freshman who caught my eye was Kalaj Cobbins. They got Kalaj Cobbins playing the jack position, and he was out there for these reps against the offensive line, and he beat Kyrie Lee. And Kalaj Cobbins looks good, y'all. I know I'm rambling a bit, but I'm just going through it. If you're just joining us, going through my practice notes from yesterday, and I'll get to a lot of your comments after. So please smash the like button if you would. If you're on YouTube, subscribe up to the channel. So Kalaj Cobbins, I think. So Kalaj Cobbins, they got him at 6'2", 219, freshman out of Destrehan. They got him listed as a jack linebacker, and so he was kind of working with the ends, right, on the pass rush. We're there with Kevin Peoples, and this Peoples is funny too. Peoples reminds me of like when we were in high school. Dale Weiner was hilarious, so they're going to the next drill. People's like, right here, man, right here, man, right here. You too, Kalaj. That's so good. Anyway, he's got a good sense of humor. He'll curse that. Yeah, he'll let him fly too when he's got to. But Kalaj Cobbins was impressive. Let's see. Okay, then they went back to the scrimmage, and this is it. And then Brian Kelly talked to us after. So just as for evidence of how, just as evidence of how much Kyron Lacey took over this practice. So here you go, ones against ones in a full scrimmage, right? They got chains, they got refs on the field. They're thudding, they're not tackling to the ground, but it's, you get 7 yards, you move 7. It's like first, second, third. They're keeping the downs, all that sort of stuff. On first down, Braden Swinson got a sack for a loss of 7. So again, there's ones on ones. So Swinson gets a sack. It beats Emory Jones, gets a sack on first down. So it's 2nd and 17. They run a screen to Kyron Lacey. He gets the yardage lost by the sack. So it's 3rd and 10. They throw a screen on the right side, by the way. 3rd and 10. Lacey on the left side. Nuss throws it low and away. Lacey goes down to the ground, reaching away from his body, and catches the ball right at the sticks for 10 yards, first down. On first down, the heads-up play by Nuss. Defense was offsides, so he had a free play, took a deep shot to Chris Hilton, which was incomplete. But so they got 1st and 4. They ran a crosser, a shallow cross with 4 Daniels, but it was incomplete. So now it's 2nd and 5. They throw to the left side to Kyron Lacey, double coverage, high points the ball. The 2 defenders fall down. Kyron Lacey runs down to like the 5-yard line. I mean, it was probably a 50-yard gain. And then on a 1st down, they spread everything out, and Nuss had a lane and ran in for the touchdown. I mean, it was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays. I mean, 6 plays. Like the offense. So you ask, like, is the offense that good, or do you have that many problems with the defense? That's a fair question. The 2s went in, and on 1st down, Paris Shan got a sack. And they lost like 10. So it was 2nd and 20. They ran the ball with Caleb Jackson for like 3 yards. It was 3rd and 17. Collins was pressured. He threw an incomplete pass. So that was where Collins went first with the 2s. The only other thing that I was going to tell y'all, and I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Y'all wanted to know. I'm going through all my practice notes. I'm just emptying the notebook for you. So Stamps and PJ Woodland were your first corners. When they rotated in with the 1s, right? While the 1s are still out there, the next two corners that went out were 25, who's Toviano. Toviano replaced Stamps, and J.K. Johnson went out there with the 1s and replaced Woodland. So remember, J.K. Johnson was the guy who transferred in from Ohio State last year, got injured in fall camp, didn't play at all, and we haven't really seen him out there in spring, but he was out there yesterday, and he got reps with the 1s. So that was encouraging to see. So, okay, there's my notes. Brian Kelly talked about a ton. So I'm sure there's a bajillion comments now because I've been talking for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes. But anyway, all right, let's get to questions and all that good stuff. Let's see. Rocky asked how you feeling about Trey Holly. So, Rocky, I did ask Brian Kelly yesterday about Trey Holly. And Brian Kelly told us that he spoke to Trey Holly's high school coach at the coach's clinic. And they are prepared that Trey Holly has still been going to class online, so he's still eligible, and that they're planning for the possibility of reinstatement sometime here. I think he said they have like the next part of the next protocol or whatever legal deal is later this month in April. So they're planning on getting him back, which is great news. Earl, good morning. First time LSU lost for series. Eric promises isn't trolling now that we're simply fighting for a postseason berth. Presuming it'll be leaning toward RPI. Do midweek results actually matter? No, because the thing is, Eric, it doesn't matter if you win your midweek games and lose your weekends. Do you see my point? Like, your RPI opportunities are going to come on the weekends. So no, it doesn't matter what you do on the midweek. You're going to have to win weekends when you have, like, this weekend against Tennessee is a good RPI opportunity. You got to go win this weekend. Championship talk officially over for baseball. I mean, the thing I would tell you though, Apollo Balboa, is it's just so hard for people to really grasp and conceptualize. Like, do you realize how bad Mississippi State and Ole Miss were the year that they won the national championship? Like, Ole Miss was literally the last team in the field, and them getting in the field as an at-large was controversial because most people thought NC State actually deserved it, and it was probably the committee doing a solid for Mike Bianco because if they had missed the tournament, he was going to get fired. That's a pretty commonly held opinion. So I guess my point is, like, it's baseball. Like, you just got to get in and you can play your best. I'm not telling you it's likely. It'd be certainly improbable with the way they're playing right now. But baseball, because of the way the postseason is formatted, unlike any other, like, you can improve. Look at NC State in basketball. They were a 500 basketball team. They made the Final Four. Um, let's see. Earl, using Griffin Thursday hurt us the rest of the way. What point coaches had to be accountable? Yeah, Earl, I don't think that using Griffin Herring on Thursday hurt you. Using Griffin Herring on Thursday is why you won on Thursday. What hurt you is you were up 9-0 and you couldn't hold that lead. So, like, I would have loved to have not had to use Griffin Herring on Thursday, but you were up 9-0. And Braswell kicked the ball that would have got you out of the 6, and so you brought in Herring with runners on base, which was the right decision. Bob Poole, I found the Holcomb home run ball on my patio in Zachary. He hit it over the scoreboard. It was crazy. Devin Kelly, good morning. Let's see. Cortland, Austin. Baseball's been run rule 3 times already. Tim Forche, what's going on? Which coach, if any, were working with the kickers, if you happen to catch any of that? Yeah, so Slade Nagel is working with special teams, but only when they went team period special teams. Like, they worked, like I mentioned, field goals, PATs. They worked punt as well. Other than that, Nagel was with the tight ends. Tyler asked, with Holly still not eligible, having 2 scholarship running backs cause for concern. So Brian Kelly did talk about managing the workload for Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson this spring. And so they are getting a lot of reps for walk-ons just to manage those guys' workload. But remember, you are going to have Caden Durham coming in June, and then the freshman, and then it looks like they're going to have Trey Holly back. All right. Reed Rule, loss of words for this team, 0 leadership, soft mentality is really showing. I don't usually like to talk about intangibles because there's no way really to know that if you're not in the locker room. But I kind of do feel that way. Like, I agree with that. Like, I mean, this team 4 times now has had a late lead and lost a conference game. And they've lost by 1 or 2 runs. You think about how dramatically different your season feels if you're able to win those games, and you're at 7-5 right now. But you're not. You can't close those games, and that's a problem. Irfan Sayad Gamogan. Let me do this. Let me go to the bottom and work my way back up a little bit here. James said, so what's the problem with the baseball team? Is it culture? So, James, well, a couple things. If we go back and listen to every commentary everybody made about this team in the preseason, everybody said the same thing. You were losing your top 7 everyday guys from a year ago. Well, not top, because you returned Tommy White, but you're losing 7 of your top 8 position players from a year ago. We knew it was going to take a while for the offense to come along. What we all said was, listen, pitching and defense, we'll have to pace this team while the offense figures it out. And true to form, they've struggled to figure out the offense. The problem is, we thought the Thatcher Hurd we saw in Omaha would carry over and would be a dominant Friday night guy. That hasn't happened. Gage Jump looked so good the first time we saw him, and he hasn't been great in conference play. Luke Holman has obviously has held up his end of the bargain. He's been really good. But think about all the arms out of the bullpen. We were really excited to see Cam Johnson, highest rated commit ever to show up on campus. He just hasn't found his touch. Nate Ackenhausen, who was so good in Omaha in that Tennessee game, has reverted to the Ackenhausen that we kind of saw most of last year, which made him a little bit hot and cold. Gavin Guidry hasn't really established himself in a firm role on this team. There's a lot we thought would be there on the pitching staff that hasn't been. So when you're struggling to hit and score runs, and you also don't pitch it very well, that's your problem. Now, I guess the reason that I would have to say, could they turn it around if you just want to look at a glass half full, they've got tons of arms and tons of talent. Like up and down the lineup, they've got talent offensively and certainly on the pitching staff as well. It's just a matter of these guys performing and delivering when they're called upon. That's just what hasn't happened to this point. Whenever when you don't have veteran guys like Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan and Cade Beloso and Gavin Dugas and Jordan Thompson and guys that have, you know, been through the fires and, want to be up in that moment. Now you got a bunch of young guys that haven't been there. You're trying to find who wants it, Haven't found that yet, clearly. A DA said, Matt, again, everyone keeps comparing us to State and Ole Miss. They expect to just hang around in these games. LSU is built to go to Omaha every year. We should be doing better than this after Natty. Well, the comparisons with Ole Miss and Mississippi State are the fact that those teams won national championships and then missed the postseason the next year. And so LSU struggling the year after winning a Natty. That's the comparison, and it makes sense because that is true. But again, the difference is Ole Miss and Mississippi State's programs at the times they won the Natty were not great. Again, I said it just a moment ago, but I'll repeat. Both of those teams were improbable national champions. They got hot in the postseason, went on a run. Ole Miss was the last team in the field. LSU was a team that a lot of people had preseason last year as the favorite to win the national championship. So it wasn't a surprise. So yes, the LSU program is on much more solid footing, and you shouldn't have a season like this. Now, the other part of it is the schedule. You had a brutal start to conference play. It's a narrative we all talked about. And the second half of conference play is going to lighten up, but you got one more week to go through this grind. I mean, how different would it feel if you reversed your schedule, right? Think of it this way. Again, I'm not making an excuse. This is just like sometimes the luck or unluck of the draw. What if you opened with Ole Miss at home, then went to Bama, then you were home against A&M, and then you were home against Auburn, and then you were at Missouri? Like, I think you'd be better than 3 wins right now. And then you went to Tennessee, and we're home against Vandy, and went to Arkansas, and we're home against Florida, and you wrapped up at home against Mississippi State. Like, just invert the schedule. And it would feel dramatic. It should feel dramatically different. I mean, but it's what it is, man. The unluck of the draw. Let's see, Dalton Barnett. Any word on the health of J.K. Johnson's eye, Alexander? Again, if you missed it, J.K. Johnson took some reps with the ones yesterday. He was out there. He's wearing number 12, so he changed his number. He was 10 last year. Changed his numbers, number 12, and he was taking reps with the ones. Heard Will Campbell would have won the dance-off contest at practice. I didn't see a dance-off. Brian Penton, good morning. Bubba Smith, Dustin B. What is that? Ryan Pike didn't get Drew want to play shortstop. Yeah, well, and it's not that he couldn't hit. That's not true at all. So Guidry last year got beaten out by Jordan Thompson and Gavin Dugas on the middle infield. No harm there. Those are 2 veteran players who are really good, helped you win a national championship. And Guidry was a true freshman. Well, Guidry didn't want to do nothing, so he pitched. And when you're focused on pitching, you're not hitting. So it's been more than a year. So you come into this year, and they chose to focus on Guidry pitching. It's been more than a year since Gavin Guidry has taken consistent ABs. You can't just put him back out there and expect him to hit. Let's see. Spectrum Wellcare said, how does defensive lineman Sean Washington look? Big. He ran with the 2s. And by the way, I don't think that sticks. Like, I think so. Kimo Makaneoli in fairness, look, the guy's doing, he's taking one for the team, right? This guy's been an offensive lineman during his time at LSU. This spring, he flips over to defensive line because they need bodies there. Um, but I think if they had to play a game today, your starting tackles would be Jacobian, who Brian Kelly raved about yesterday, and then Jalen Lee or Sean Washington. So Washington's wearing 95, and he's a big old dude, and Jalen Lee has gotten even bigger. Jalen Lee, they got at 6'3", 307. So I think those would be your first ones. We saw Demyron Johnson, the freshman's out there. He's got a ways to go out of Westgate. A little undersized, it looks right now. Ways to go. And then remember, Preston Hickey's out there as well. Preston Hickey's the kid from St. Paul's who went to Oklahoma State and then transferred last year. He's a preferred walk-on, but 6'1", 300 pounds. So he's out there as well. But in the fall, you're going to get Dominic McKinley here, and you're going to get Gio Paez, the Wisconsin transfer, and I'm sure they're going to add at least one more interior lineman. So they're going to bolster those numbers as well. Dustin B, good morning. Bruce Shales, good morning. Sorry for Mr. Take on this. What do you think's wrong with this team? Is it coaching, lack of leadership, and experience? Talked about that a smidge, yeah. Look, I mean, obviously you rely on your coaches to get your players ready to play and to put them in positions to win. But a coach can't swing a bat. A coach can't throw a pitch. A coach can't field a grounder. I always believe, like in the course of a game, like in football, you can flat get out coached. A team can have a better game plan, they can attack you, and an offensive coordinator can have a brilliant game plan and you execute it and they beat you. In baseball, it's more like when to make a pitching change. Do you pitch out here to try to get the runner stealing? Do you steal? Do you hit and run? Those are the kinds of things in game that I think matter the most. But ultimately, it's Jay's team. I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things that I can't help but think about is just if you talk about roster compilation, like they took Braswell early, and he's really struggled defensively. You could have had Luke Hill. Luke Hill wanted to come here. He's at Ole Miss now. A kid from Baton Rouge who went to Arizona State and wanted to come back, but you already took Braswell. You could add Colby Shelton, but you took Braswell early. And the challenge is if you you take Braswell, and then if after that you go add someone else, then you get a reputation, and then it might be harder to get guys out of the portal because coaches will negative recruit against you. So, I think that's one thing you could point to. But, Jeff G was the transfer from Wisconsin out there. No, Gio Paez isn't here until June. Brett Guidry, McMahon signed 3 top 75 players. Believe this team makes a big leap. Yeah, they're not done either. I mean, they're still going to get portal players as well. So, talked to Cam. Missed it. We talked to Cam Carter on Friday. That was fun. This kid from Donaldsonville went to EA and then went to Mississippi State for a year. Last 2 years at Kansas State. Now in his 4th year, he's coming back home to play for LSU. Pretty cool. Where are we? Dustin A. Bear, does all this mean the defense is going to suck as bad as last year? Is that even possible? No. Dustin, I don't think it's possible to be that bad again. Well, I guess it's possible, but I don't think it's plausible. I think the defense will be better, just with some of those players getting older and playing in positions that actually suit them better. I think even Brian Kelly, when he was asked about, the improvement in the secondary, and he talked about Major Burns, and I think the word he used was sloppy. He was sloppy in coverage last year, which he was. But you have him in the star position now, which lets him play closer to the line of scrimmage, lets him be a little more physical against the run, which he's good at. And if you got to cover someone, you're covering a tight end instead of the other team's best receiver 40 yards downfield. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Sage Ryan playing free safety is a much better option than Sage Ryan playing boundary corner. So some of it is that, it's just getting guys in positions that I think better suit them. Lance Richard, I'd hold back optimism. He's still facing felony gun charges. Lance, you're talking about Trey Holly. I mean, I asked the question of Brian Kelly yesterday, and he certainly seemed like this was going to be resolved. So it sounds like he has some insight into what's going on there. So I am optimistic because the head coach said on the record yesterday they're preparing for reinstatement. So Bob Poole, Ethan Fry has not been the same since the shoulder injury, 2 of 22 in the last 10 games. Thoughts? I don't know that it's the shoulder injury as much as it is SEC pitching. He had a good game against Florida, I believe. And that's been about it. So he is overmatched. He reminds me a lot of Jared Jones a year ago. Tons of talent, tons of ability. You can see it all there. But he is overmatched right now. Jay loves him. I mean, Jay loves Ethan Fry and Ashton Larson. Those are the two guys he is the young guys he is leaning on. And Milam. Those are the young guys he is absolutely leaning on. And I don't get it with Fry. I mean, yesterday I understand you were trying to load up the lineup with right-handers because you were facing Holton, who's a left-hander. And so they just put a bunch of right-handers in the lineup, but I don't care. Like, I would rather have Josh Pearson in the lineup than Ethan Fry. And I get it. He's a lefty, but I don't care. He's a guy that's delivered on huge stages for you. And sometimes you can overthink the lefty-righty thing. H-Town Creole said, is the O-line that good or is the D-line worse than last season? No, the LSU offensive line is awesome. They are really, really, really good and impressive. I mean, keep in mind, you have bookend tackles that are going to be first-rounders. Your two guards, Dellinger is a 4-year starter. Miles Frazier is now going to be a 4-year starter as well. Like, you are just so veteran and so, like, you're in the conversation for the best offensive line in the country. Like I don't know that you definitively say that no matter like period, but you're in the conversation. And your defensive line is still a little shorthanded. I mean, you got a converted offensive lineman running with the ones. But again, if you missed it, what I'll say is really encouraging is that when the 2s and the 3s went out there, the defensive line got the better of the offensive line. So I think you have some good young talent that's going to grow and develop. Now, look, guys like Ethan Callaway and like Cohen Eccles, the early enrollee true freshman, was your backup center. So sophomore DJ Chester is your starting center. True freshman early enrollee Cohen Eccles is your backup. I mean, that's a dramatic difference from a year ago where, Charles Turner, your 5th-year center, was backed up by Marlon Martinez, a 4th-year player, and then number 3 was your really talented freshman DJ Chester. You are younger there for sure. Let's see. Lance, who's the transfer from Arizona we passed up on to take Braswell? That's what I was talking about. That was that's Hill. That's Luke Hill. He's at Ole Miss now. How's Hill doing at Ole Miss? He's starting shortstop. Let's see. He is hitting 261. It's not great. 261, one homer. 17 strikeouts in 111 at bats. Just putting the ball in play. 25 walks. Getting on base. Anyway. Brett tasted some Jefferson's Tropic Bourbon this weekend. A sweet smell and aftertaste. Pretty good. Okay. Force of Nature Crypto. Good morning, Matt. Do you even think Jay Johnson's thinking about Omaha? I think Jay Johnson's trying to think about how to win a game against Tennessee. Tate Granger. Morning, Matt. Who has chance at wide receiver 3 to go with Lacey and Hilton? Yeah, so it kind of depends on the position, right? But yesterday, the third receiver out there was Aaron Anderson running the slot, but they ran a ton with Xavion Thomas, screens with Xavion Thomas. You know, one of the things that last week, if you were on AFR, if you're listening, I did a segment talking about like how you replace Jaden Daniels' rushing attempts. Because just think of it this way. Jaden Daniels had 135 rushing attempts last year. That's 135 plays that are not going to go to your quarterback this year, meaning Nussmeier is going to run 135 times. So how do you replace those 135 rushing attempts and 1,100 rushing yards? Like, I don't think Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams are each going to get 70 more rushing attempts, as a result of that. And remember, you also had running backs that had those carries last year. So, Logan Diggs is gone. So it's more likely those two guys just take on, Diggs' rushing attempts. So what do you do? How do you replace those? So, like, even the ones that weren't the design runs for Jaden, like plays breaking down, Jaden runs. Well, what happens this year when the play's breaking down? I don't think Garrett's running. So does he throw it away? Do they have a check down? Is it just more screens? I think the beneficiary is going to be Xavion Thomas. Like, it looks pretty clear. Or maybe Aaron Anderson. But those two guys, they love them in the screen game, and I think you're going to see that a lot, kind of as an extension of the run. Carl the Cat. 2011 season had a losing SEC record, won the tournament round, and had to travel to California. Hope LSU gets better in conference soon. Carl, that was 2010. 2011 was the last time LSU missed postseason altogether. 2010 were the defending champs and went and played at UCLA in the regional round and lost after winning the SEC tournament. 2011 was when they were 13-17 in the conference and didn't make the SEC tournament. And even with an RPI of like 27, they had a top 30 RPI. They got left out of postseason play. That's when the SEC changed the rule. That's when they expanded the SEC tournament because LSU got snubbed. They're like, we're never having a team get left out of regionals again because they didn't make our conference tournament. So that's when they expanded the conference tournament and everybody played. Well, they kept it at 12 when they expanded to 14. And so the bottom two don't make it. But look, man, here's what I'll say about LSU baseball. Like, clearly this team has major issues it's got to work through. I'm not sunshine pumping or denying or any of that stuff. We also like, it is also undeniable. We talked about how the first half of conference play was brutal, and it has been. And the second half lightened up considerably. So I think you recalibrate your goals now. Like, instead of thinking national seed SEC champion, you think, okay, get into the regional field. Well, what's that going to take? 14 SEC wins. If you have 14-16 with a couple wins in Hoover, can that get you there? All right. Can you win 11 of 18? Can you go 11-7 the rest of the way? Feels like a big ask considering you're sitting here at 3-9 right now. Um, but the schedule lightens up considerably. So the opportunity is there. If you can fix a lot of what ails you right now. Jason Francois, I see some good whiskey behind you, Matt. Yeah, I'm a whiskey guy, dude. Got lots of it. Manny can remember 4-game series loss by LSU in which LSU was run. Or are you asking, can I remember? No. I mean, I can look, there were some bad seasons. You know, '06 and '07 were atrocious. The last year Smoke, for sure, Paul were awful. 11. It's just uncommon, man. Not used to it. Jonathan Young, do you think this is Jay Johnson's final year? What? What? All right, you're trolling. Definitely trolling. Matt, what's your favorite scotch? I don't love scotch. Landon Weber, guy with Cincinnati, you're looking to replace. Yeah, I think that guy's trolling. Steve Menard, good morning. Cortland Braswell struggling, but he also has your best batting average. Your offense is at the bottom of the league. I'll take the trade right now. You know, the tough part about that Cortland, though, is like, think about the error in game 2 against Arkansas in the 10th, right? Thatcher Hurd gets a strikeout of the first batter in the 10th. He gets a weak tapper to short, and the second batter goes under Braswell's glove. Double, game over. Whereas you should have had 2 outs with nobody on, and then that double doesn't hurt you. The errors have been costly, man. Let's see. It's not uncommon for a team to drop off after so many players leave and you face a bunch of loaded teams. This is why winning last year was so important, because you knew what you were losing. Sort of, Cortland, but the other part of that is you return Tommy White and you return a bunch of guys from last year's team who weren't everyday players but were super talented, like, you know, like Pearson and Bear Jones and Travinsky coming back, and you had a bunch of that, right? And then you had Thatcher Hurd, who was so good at the end of last year, and then you go and you add Holman and Jump, and so there was. Listen, this team has talent. What they don't have, I think, is great leadership. Like a great. The most concerning thing is, like, when things go wrong, they don't respond. Like on Friday, after Ole Miss or Vandy hit the 2-run homer to take the 7-6 lead, you come back and you catch a massive break. You catch a massive break on Larson's swing and bunt, and you know the catcher throws the ball in the right field. So you got first and third now, and you have a chance for a big inning, like to tie it or take back the lead. And Milam grounds into a double play. Like, there isn't a lot of how to win awareness on this team. Like in that spot, there is no excuse. Like you were elevating this baseball. Like you were not hitting the ball on the ground in the infield. You know, you're either going to squeeze bunt or you're going to put the ball into the outfield. Like you're going to elevate the baseball. And if you're not confident Milam can do that in that spot, then you got to put someone in who can. I mean, the game's on the line. You got to run over third with less than 2 outs. You got to get that guy home. Anyway. Craig, we fired Jay Johnson or not? I'm gonna go with nah. All right, y'all. I gotta get dressed and go to church. I gotta go shower and go to church. Let's see, couple more. Dustin B, are you a fan of McKenna 10? Yeah, it's good. Anthony, morning, Matt. I'm just laughing at this point. I expected a drop off, not this bad. Crazy to think they actually may miss postseason play if they don't get it together soon. Yeah, I don't think anybody thought it would be this bad. I could have totally believed, If you told me looking at the first half of conference at the schedule, like they're going to be sub 500 at the turn, I could have totally believed that, given who you played, right? Um, but then again, man, like Tennessee is the example. This was Tennessee a year ago. Tennessee had the most dominant regular season we'd ever seen, right? 2 years ago, they lost their regional or their super regional, and then they started out last year 5-10. I mean, it was the same thing. They started off last year 5-10, and they went 11-3 in the second half. No, 11-4, excuse me, in the second half. Finished 16-17, 16-14, math, 16-14, and went to Omaha. They traveled for regionals and they traveled for super regionals because they dug themselves that deep of a hole, but their talent finally came together. So that's kind of the thing with this team right now. Like it's like, I mean, Anthony, you could say it's comical on the optimism or whatever, but it's like there's an example as recent as last year in your league of a team that mirrors you, um, of how they got it together. So it's why you never like completely let go in baseball because look in football, if you come out the chute in September and you're 1-3, well, your championship hopes are over. Like you can't, even if you run the table and you go 9-3, you're not in a playoff. You're not playing for a champ. You know what I mean? Like it's over. In baseball, it's just different. Like basketball too. I mean, NC State's is the example of that. You just got to get in. It's like it. I mean, again, I'm not predicting this to happen, right? I'm having the conversation. I'm not saying they're going to get it together and go to Omaha. Please don't misunderstand me. Like they have some pretty deep seated issues here, but we could all agree. Like we've seen Thatcher Hurd be great. We've seen Luke Holman and Gage Jump be great. We've seen Nate Ackenhausen and Gavin Guidry be great. Like we've seen these guys be great. They're not right now, but we've seen them do it. Um, can you get it together in the second half? We'll see. Yeah. Austin, Tennessee's best team ever didn't even make it to Omaha. Makes me smile every time I think about it. That and Arkansas's foul ball against Oregon State. It's so true. And it also underscores how hard it is to win. How hard it is to win, man. Ben said, what coaches did Jay replace in the offseason? Could coaches be influencing regression of pitching and hitting? So, I mean, look, Yeski came in as the pitching coach because you lost Wes Johnson to Georgia. And I do believe that having 3 pitching coaches in 3 years matters. It's like if you change your defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator and a quarterback has 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years. I mean, I think that matters for consistency, for expectation, for how you manage your staff, how you pitch calling in the game and sequencing, all that matters. Yeah, I think that matters. But Yeski's been a great coach in his career, man. Like Nate Yeski's won that. He was the pitching coach at Oregon State all those years. They were so dominant. He was with Jay at Arizona when they were in the national championship series. Like Yeski's a good pitching coach. I think there's just, they've struggled to get it together. Okay. I gotta go. I gotta go shower and go to church. Mass is in 39 minutes. Good thing I live nearby. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Do me a favor, please smash the like button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Covered a lot of ground today, y'all. If you're just joining, I gave you my full practice report. If you want to scroll back, you can look. I had the little the banner on the bottom. So if you just scrub it, you can see where I have that on the bottom. You get my full practice report from yesterday from football. The great news, y'all, is that because the series is already over, we don't have to have LSU baseball lose on a Sunday to ruin our Sunday. So, hey, y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate y'all. If you're on YouTube, subscribe up to the channel, Facebook, like the Matt Scone page, share the post. Have an awesome day. We'll see you. Peace.